Welcome everyone to the Becoming a Being live session. We're going to get started here in just about a minute. As some folks are joining, we want to give them a chance to join. I know it takes a few minutes for everyone to get logged in and find it. If you're watching, feel free to share. If you haven't followed the Facebook page, go ahead and follow us at Becoming a Being on Facebook. And you'll be getting all the notifications of upcoming events that we'll be having in the future. Hey, I see Joshua. Hey, Joshua.
Josh, hey, Josh. My baby. That's my baby.
Yes, your baby. And my favorite, Stephanie told him, let's get started, okay? Now, you know, if anybody knows Stephanie, you know you're supposed to get started on time. We don't wait on no one, all right? If you didn't get in when you could get in, then you just missed out.
You just SOL.
You just SOL. I love you, Stephanie. I love you. I do. So as people are joining, just to let you know, we're going to be doing a few introductions here. I have a great set of panelists. I'm so excited to have them here on this call today. They all said yes. Some didn't know what they were saying yes to, but it's all right. We're going to make this happen today. I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about Becoming a Being, because I know Becoming a Being might be a little bit new to some of you out there of what our mission is, and then we'll introduce the panelists here. And so we'll just get started while folks are joining. Yes. We're so glad to have you all here. Again, if you have not followed me yet, follow us on Becoming a Being. You can just hit the follow button so that you can get notifications of upcoming events as well. And then follow us because we do have exciting things that we do during the week. I post inspirational things to keep us motivated and moving, as well as I do a Q&A with Angelina every Wednesday. So if you have questions, drop them in the comment section. Some of the questions we'll try to get to them tonight. If not, we will address them in our weekly Q&A. All right. The more questions I have, I just might up them to more than once a week, but right now they're just on Wednesdays. And I'm going to go ahead and get started and get into this as people are joining. Let me tell you just a little bit about Becoming a Being. Becoming a Being, the short and skinny of it is becoming a being is becoming who God created you to be, so you can walk in your purpose and live life abundantly. So becoming is the journey, the process we have to go through to get to the other side of pain. And being is that destination, the who that God originally created you to be. And so being is that freedom in our mind to be who we are, be who we want to be, go where we want to go, and live life without any limitations. And so that's what that life abundantly is. It's about breaking those glass ceilings when you didn't even know you could break them. And so, but there's many of us that we don't know who we are, and we don't understand or know what we're capable of, right? And we take whatever life brings our way. And so Becoming a Being is here to say you don't have to take whatever life brings your way, right? You have the will to make your own decisions of your life and where you're going to go in life. And so if you're existing, and it's not until you break those mental chains and heal the wounds of the heart that you can begin to see and walk and live in your true beauty. And so that's what Becoming a Being is about. I'm Angelina Watkins. For those who are just now tuning in, I'm Angelina Watkins. I'm the founder of Becoming a Being, and I'm committed to helping people heal from their past so they can be free to discover and walk in their purpose. And so follow me on Facebook at Becoming a Being. And you can also follow me on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where I post videos. And so follow me on YouTube at Becoming a Being as well. I'm go ahead and get started with our panelists and introductions of our panelists. I'm so excited with this group. I have a great group of entrepreneurs, just God-fearing believers, and I'm just loving it. And so you may be on here, maybe you're not a believer, and that's okay. because we're going to be giving you some practical information that you can use and apply to your life, whether you are a believer or not. So even if you're not a believer and you don't, just stay tuned. Listen to what we have to say anyway before you turn us off. So I'm just going to kind of introduce my panelists here. In no particular order, I'm just going to go in the order that they are on the screen. We have Ryan Dupree. Thank you so much for joining us. She's the executive director over there at Christ Emmanuel. She sits on the board of directors at the Cincinnati Community Action Agency. And so we're so glad to have her here. And then we have Michael Montgomery, who is a family and marriage therapist. Did I get that right?
Okay, wait, I froze there for a second. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And then we have Larry Scott, a busy man, busy man, got 3 businesses. He has the ID Academy and the Northwest Adult Services. And then he just started a new business called, is the Crown King? What's it called? I'm sorry.
It's officially called The Box. It's a mobile pop-up store. And out of that mobile pop-up store, you can lease it out yourself to do your own business out of it, whether you're selling apparel or accessories or what have you. And I also use it myself to sell towards, to sell for prom and homecoming and weddings as well. I do weddings also. So I can personally come to your home or your location and pull right up in this box truck and service you.
Oh, wow, that's nice. You tell me all that. That's nice. I like that. Oh, then we have Felicia Hawkins. Welcome, Felicia Hawkins. She is a owner and operator of a residential and commercial cleaning company called Changing the Atmosphere. And so what a befitting name, Changing the Atmosphere, because she's going to change, she's going to clean it up and pray over it too. Huh? She's going to really change that atmosphere. Then we have Cephas Pearson. Welcome, Cephas. He is a real estate guru. He's modest about it, you all, but he's a real estate agent, a real estate investor. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's in the top 5% of the real estate agents here in Ohio. And so we are glad to have him here on the panel. And then I have Dion Coates. Dion Coates, oh gosh, what can I say about Dion Coates? First, let me say she's got her own company called Dion Soaps and Such. And so if you don't know about it, check her out. Her soaps and fizz balls and things that she makes are handcrafted, spiritual healing. She puts things in there that's good for your body. It's all natural. And so check her out, Dion Soaps and Such. And then Dion, this is our prayer warrior, okay? This is our prayer warrior. She's been praying, becoming a being into existence. So we thank her for that. And then it just came to me that Michael, I forgot, he is an operator and owner of, tell me again, Empower
Counseling Services.
Say it again.
Empower Counseling Services.
Yes, Empower Counseling Services. He owns his own practice. I got to say that. So we got a bunch of entrepreneurs here on the panel, and so I appreciate that. And so I want to just thank my viewers for coming in and joining us. I see folks are in the chat, and I thank you for coming. I see you, Jovan. Welcome to Becoming a Being. And so we're going to just go ahead and get started into this discussion because we got a lot to talk about, y'all. And I know there's a lot of people out there that's very interested in this conversation. And I'm hoping that we can say some things that will empower you, that will start your healing and just kind of help you wherever you may be with needing to break mental change. And so with that being said, I want to start the conversation out with defining what are mental change. And I'm going to start that conversation out and ask Dion if she would take that first question of defining mental change, because she talks so much about it. And her favorite phrase is mental sobriety, right? The opposite of having the mental change is having mental sobriety. So Dion, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you, Angelina. I appreciate that. Just wanted to say that we know that mental foremost means a disorder. And we don't recognize a lot of times that we walk in disorder. Mental we're mentally bound to those things that either we were taught growing up, either someone spoke into our lives, or what have you. I remember being saved for over 35 years and thinking that I was free because I had given my life to Christ. And only recognizing a few years ago that there was some things in me that I had been carrying that was keeping me mentally bound. So I had a disorder, and mental change is a disorder. It's something that we function and operate in daily, but we don't recognize it because our wills tell us, in Angelina's favorite slogan, that we're beautifully and wonderfully made, not recognizing that we have to unbecome some of those things that we've allowed ourselves to become. So in the last few years, I've broken some mental chains intentionally. I've allowed myself to be broken, and I've allowed the disorders to dissipate. Not that they're all gone, but I'm certainly working on it. I'm working on my sobriety.
Amen. Good, good. Who else? Can someone else have what do you think about when you hear the words mental chains?
Well, in therapy, we talk about, to piggyback on what Dion is saying, not just a disorder, but a dis-ease. It's a dis-ease of the mind. You're no longer at ease, but you're in a state of panic or in a state of anxiety or depression, or, you're just excessive worry, which leads to anxiety. We're all, I would say, church folks. So hopefully some church folks are watching. Even Jesus said, John 10:10, that, the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But he said, I come that you might have life and you have it more abundantly. When we're not living in that abundant life, we're not reaching our potential. And we're not reaching our potential usually because of the chains that's holding us back from the freedom of the mind to move forward.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It's just mental chains are those things that they bog us down, right? It's like mental and emotional baggage, and they weigh us down, and sometimes we don't even know we've got that weight. We're so used to carrying the weight, right? And we don't even know we have this weight on our shoulders or that we're carrying around our life. We don't. It just becomes our norm. And we get comfortable with living within the discomfort and then that dysfunction. And so can we talk about that a little bit, kind of shift what causes mental chains? How do we get these mental chains?
I believe.
Go ahead.
Life.
I'm
I was
sorry.
about to say Larry. He was reading my mind. Go ahead.
Well, I like to say that, my opinions and what I have to offer stems from my experiences, biblical principles, and just my everyday life. I don't have no degrees. I don't have any documentation to prove that I know anything. I don't know anything. All I have is my experiences, and I like to just share my experiences with people and what I've observed over the years. But when I think of mental chains, when I see a chain, it's composed of links, right? A chain is not a continuous object, meaning that it's just one single continuous object, but it's composed of many links. So when I think of mental chains, I'm thinking of a particular chain may be a moment in time where you experience some type of trauma, some hurt or pain. It could be due to your culture. It could be due to what has influenced you. And I look at it as a moment in time. And that mental chain, or that particular link in that chain, so you have many links in the chain, and each link may represent a moment of time, okay? And you can only go as far as the link are the links behind you, right? So if there's only 3 links, your distance is very limited on how far you can reach, okay? So you can, your present or your future can determine, right, how far your chain or your life can stem. I believe that you can't go no further than your experiences. And if you have this mental chain, again, with mental chains, it's not physical. There's no physical restraint, but it's a mental one. It reminds me of, and I'm going to stop here after I say this. It reminds me of the experiment that they do with dogs, or like an invisible fence. Okay, you can have a dog chain around this dog, or you can have some type of mechanism around the neck, and it can be an electrical fence that's not visible. And every time he goes to a certain point, it shocks the dog, and he continues to shock him every time he reaches this point. And it gets so embedded into the mind, this trauma that the dog is experiencing, that they can get to a point where they can remove the belt, the collar from the neck, and even the fence that may be in the boundary, and it would not go no further than that, because it anticipates the trauma that it always experiences once it meets that boundary. So it's in his mind now, and there's no physical chain there to restrain him. So that's what I see as mental, or an example of what mental chain can look like.
Wow, I like that. I like that example. That's really good.
That's great.
Yeah. Does anyone have something to add to that about what causes mental chains? How do we get there? Because I know sometimes I think we lost someone, but when I teach, and I teach people about the offenses, I call them offenses, but traumatic events in our past, or bad things that may have happened to us in our past, I call them offenses, and we can get them of three ways. They can be a direct offense. Someone directly did something to you that hurt you. They could be an indirect offense, which means that somebody did something to someone you loved, and it bothered you, it hurt you. And then it could be just from your upbringing, just being in the environment. Sometimes you can pick up on things by just being in the environment. No one had to do anything to you. No one really had to say anything to you, but that was just your culture. That was just your neighborhood. That was your community. That was your family. And the dysfunctions that went on around you has impacted the way you think and the way you operate in this earth. So that's what that's my takeaway of trauma. But trauma comes in so many ways: what people said to you, what people did to you, your upbringing and how you was raised, and the things that you were taught, the things that you were not taught. They all impact your mental. And a lot of times, as Larry has given us an example, it gets just so embedded and embossed in our brains, right? So let's talk a little bit about what mental chains look like, because I think it's important for people to kind of understand and get a picture of what does it mean to have a mental chain. Can we talk a little bit about what that may look like? I want to go to Ryan first and see what examples she may have, and then Larry, I'm gonna come back to you because I have something that you always say that I want to get to. But Ryan, what does having mental chains look like to you?
I think the thought that came to mind was kind of on piggybacking on what Larry said, where you're trying to move forward in many instances, whether it's through healing, whether it's through opportunities, and there's something that is tethering you to your past that will not allow you to progress. And so mental chains, those things in your mind, those regrets, those traumas, whatever that looks like, a chain, fear, anxiety, those are things that many times can hold you captive from progressing into the things that God has for you, progressing into the life that He has for you. And so they kind of, it's more of a bondage, like I said, that's in your mind that you really cannot, at least you think you can in that moment, really escape from or move past or move forward in order to really.
All right. So Larry, let me move to you because there's something that you always say that kind of reminds me of something that I had noted and talked about in my class, where having a mental chain. One example is the unwillingness to see others' points of view. And you like to talk a lot about, do you want to be right or do you want to be righteous? Can you talk about that a little bit? Right versus being righteous.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I wish I had my prompt here because I've used it many a times, but I have these. Okay, what can I see if I have something I can use here? Doesn't look like it, but anyhow, I'm taking a three-dimensional letter. Like I like to use the letter L. Okay, and it's like one of my children's magnetic toys. And when you're looking at it straight on, it's shaped like an L. So you see an L, but if you turn it to the side, it's just going straight up and down. So it looks like an I. So based on your perspective, you're looking at the same thing, but you're experiencing something totally different. And the problem is that we're trying to get people to identify with our experiences without acknowledging their experiences. Okay. We're trying to say them. See, one person is saying, no, it's an L in front of me. It's an L. I can see it. It's clear. It's an L. And the other person saying, no, I'm looking at it directly as well. It's an I. I see an I. So instead of us seeing it from each other's perspective, we're arguing that one is wrong and one is right. And so we're never able, and part of the reason for that is because we cannot see past our pain. We cannot see past our experiences, right? Because it was real for us. Those experiences were real for us. They were painful, they were hurtful. And a lot of what we have experienced may necessarily always been trauma also. It could just been the culture of the family, the culture of the schoolyard, okay? It's not always trauma. It's just like saying in my household, my mom never hugged me, but she always gave me gifts, okay? So you identify love, expressing love through gifts, okay? But the person you may end up with wants to spend time with you. So they're saying something's wrong with you because you're not spending time and you're always giving gifts, but they're not desiring the gifts, they're desiring time. So, but it's because of this perspective that each one, or the experiences or the culture that they grew up in, and we're looking at, hey, something's wrong with you because you're not doing it the way I see it. And that's where I use that example as far as people's perspectives.
Yeah. Lady, can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like? What does mental change look like? Because you say something always that's so profound, and that is that people just don't believe God. And one of those things of mental change is that we look to others for reassurance instead of looking to God, and we look outwardly for that power. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? People not believing in God. And
yes. That's one of my sayings that I say to a lot of people when we're going through things or when we're talking about different things to one another. It just seemed like the word is just thrown out the door. So I always come to the conclusion when they say things that they're really not sure of. I mean, because sometimes we say things that we're not 100% sure of. We're just saying things that they just don't believe the word. They just don't believe the word works. So my perspective in that is just don't say nothing at all, because either you're putting in God's faces that he's not. That's a slap in God's face, because his word works if you work it, but first we have to believe the word will work. And if we don't break these cycles in our minds, that we will hold on to disbelief in any given time. I remember Pastor taught about voices, these voices. You're listening to too many voices. Only voice you need to know is the voice of God. Listening to psychiatrists and everybody, some of them are given from God, they do know more than we per se they do. And they are here for a reason. They go get an education for a reason. But if somebody cannot steer you in the direction of getting what you need from God first, they're just giving you a bunch of words, and you can say that for yourself, listening to a bunch of voices. I think that's where a lot of us get mixed up in our mind. We listening to too many voices. You need to close out those voices and try to listen to the voice of God. And a lot of these chains will be broken.
I totally agree. I say, who has your ear? Because whoever has your ear has the power over your mind, and so you got to be careful who you're lending your ear to. Cephas, I want to come to you because part of breaking mental chains is having emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is someone who is self-aware and able to self-reflect and have self-control. And so I want to talk to you about that a little bit because in your walk, it's taken a lot of self-awareness and self-reflection for you to get to where you are. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yes. Everybody's made such great points, but I think that, as Ms. Hawkins was saying, it's just having that belief or knowing that God is in you. I am, so to speak. So I believe your conscience will lead you in the right direction. There's no need to, I guess, get pulled mentally in so many different directions. And it's okay to be wrong. I've been wrong a whole lot of times. When Larry was talking, I used to have a buddy that used to tell me, you don't have to be wrong one more minute. If you just listen right now, you don't have to be wrong any longer. So it's okay to be wrong. Sometimes that, that's what it takes. You can listen to some things and you listen to other people's experiences. Some people have to walk through the fire, be tried by the fire. And that's what makes, life go round. So just like Larry said, I don't have a degree. I just kind of become aware of how I'm wired. And, I like to believe for the most part that I'm comfortable with my decisions because I know I'm not going to always make the right ones. I'm not always going to make the wrong, hopefully I'm not going to always make the wrong ones either. But if I'm being true to myself, I'm going to be right more times than I'm wrong. And that's the God in each and every one of us leading us, what we call conscience. Some people call it conscience, you can call it the spirit or what have you. But if you're being true to yourself, you'll be fine. Last thing I want to say is that I think a lot of people put a lot of chains on themselves because they are looking to other people and they look at what other people have, what other people are doing. But, the Bible's full of a lot of blessings, but every blessing is not promised to each and every one of us. So you can't get so caught up. You just have to be thankful for what you have. You might not be rich. You may live a life poor, but with great family, so you just have to be thankful for whatever it is you have. And I know it's, that sounds a little cliche, but it's absolutely true.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have something to add to that? So I do want to know and this could be anyone who answers, like, how do you begin to get comfortable in the decisions that you make? Because Cephas kind of mentioned just becoming comfortable with his decisions, but how does one start to become comfortable and confident? You said what?
Make one. That's the I mean, come on, let's be honest. If we just, I don't have a whole lot of big word, but listen, a lot of folks just walking out here aimlessly. It's like roll with something, pick something, do it. If it don't work, wipe it off and try it again. But there's a lot of people that do a whole lot of talking and a lot less doing. And it's just, to me, that becomes mind boggling. Just like, I mean, I know Mike, my whole life, Mike raised a full family, full degrees, he did it, he just, he made a mindset and he just did it. So I think there's a lot of folks out there that just need to do it. And I'm gonna shut up after I say this, but I also realize that for me personally, I've been surrounded with like men. And I'm a family guy. So I've been surrounded by men my whole life that were good examples that just did it. So, you know, for me to be anything else is a complete failure. And I recognize that that is a blessing and not everyone has that. So I'm not quick to judge anyone either, because I realize that what I had, everyone else did not have.
Amen.
So I thank you for that, Cephas, because as y'all are answering these questions, those who have gone through my class can know that I did not make this stuff up. I've told them in class, look, just do something. It doesn't even matter. Just do it. If it's wrong, God will then push you in the right direction, but you got to do something, because you got to just make a move. If you want him to guide you, then you just make a move, even if you're not sure. So thanks for that, Cephas.
I think sometimes too, we are waiting on God to say, do this, be very specific in terms of doing certain things. And sometimes he is, but there's other times where he's saying, just make a decision and I'll bless you either way. And I'll just go either way. So sometimes he's just waiting on, you know, what kind of decision you're going to make, because he's putting that trust in us as his children to make a decision, and he's just going to back us up with what choice we make.
I would like to give an example of that. We can receive, you know, the Bible says that faith comes by hearing, hearing comes by the word. And when you receive a word, you may, you know how God works. He gives you a glimpse of your future. Okay, he gives you a glimpse of your future. You may get a word from God. You maybe have been unemployed for quite some time, and you heard the word of the Lord say that you're going to be employed in the next 30 days. I mean, it could be as specific as that. So are you going to sit back and wait for somebody to knock on your door to offer you a job? Or are you going to start putting in applications? Because faith is dead without works, right? So if you believe that the word that you receive, then you need to act upon that word. So the job is just not going to come. Man ain't going to fall from the sky. Okay. If you're going to get that job, or whenever certain circumstance or the word that you receive, you need to act towards or start to move towards the word that you receive or the vision that you see, because you may not know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Miss. So when you receive a word, you may not know, he may not give you every single detail. That's what we like to wait on. Like Ms. Ryan said, we try to wait on God to say where to put the application. Where should I go and put the application in? I'm not going to waste my time putting in 100 applications. God, just tell me what job you have for me. So you just sit back and wait for that job to just show up. But guess what? I also believe that words can have an expiration date. You may miss out on the opportunity to meet God where he is, and you miss out on what God has for you because you just sat back and you were still. So like I said, faith is there without works. You have to work towards the words that you receive.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah,
And just to piggyback, Angelina, on what Ryan and what Larry said, we make God responsible for our destiny. Even though God breathed life into us and he made it possible, God expects us to do something, to be proactive in our own lives. And we sit back and we make God responsible. Well, God, if you want me to have it, then you do it. Well, why should he? If he gave you a thought and he birthed something in you, then that should be enough to make you lunge out and make yourself available. I think a lot of times we don't make ourselves available out of fear, out of being mentally and emotionally bound, because sometimes we think we're not good enough. So who told you you wasn't good enough, or who told you you had to sit back and wait for an opportunity instead of going out there and taking one?
Yes.
Right. I do think, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna move on. I do think that sometimes we just really don't believe and understand that we were made in God's image.
Yes.
Right. And so if God is omnipotent, what are we? Right? If God has the mind and he's a planner, he's strategic, and he can do all of these things, do we not know that he's given us gifts? You know, do we not know that we have the same, that God has given us his mind if he made us in his image? And so we just gotta, I think, begin to identify ourselves with God and what he's put down on the inside of us. But I want to kind of bring emotions, because we've kind of been talking about that a little bit, bring that into the conversation, because mental chains are the unstableness of your mind to resort back to past experiences that cause you to respond in the present from the mental state of the past experience. So in other words, mental chains is what causes us to react out of our emotions rather than respond from your mental. Your emotions are controlling your behavior, your thought processes, and your words. And so I just want to talk a little bit about mental and emotional connections, because it's sometimes hard to separate the two. It's hard to talk about mental and not talk about emotion, and vice versa. And people say I feel when they really think, right? And they think when they really feel. And so I want to start this conversation out with Michael. How can people begin to determine the difference between what they feel and what they think?
Well, feelings are fast and furious. Thinking requires an absolute thought, and you have to be strategic in your thought. But feelings are like a sprinter. When something happens, we have a visceral feeling about it real quick. And if we're not careful, we will act on that feeling. But most feelings, if you just give it a minute, it will change. It's like the weather. It's not constant. It changes. So sometimes we are in our feelings and we go in there to that boss and we say, look, I'm not taking this no more. And we didn't give time to just think about it and say, wait a minute, I ain't got no money. I got a wife at home. I got children looking at me. That's thought. So feelings, if you just, when they hit you, they real.
Yes.
I mean, acknowledge them that I'm in my feelings right now. But then afterwards, just give it a minute. It'll pass. Quick example. Someone gave me an email and I was already in my emotions at work. I'm tired of this place. I ain't taking this no more. And then I saw this email from my boss. And I'm telling y'all, my feelings, when I read it, my boss was telling me, look, you better get your act together, you out. And I said, no, she ain't sitting up here talking to me like this. I'm finna, she finna get it. And my mind said, hold it. You need to reread that. And I read it again and it wasn't nothing like I thought. But when you're in your feelings, you will act on it. And usually your feelings causes you to make great mistakes.
Yes.
So remember, feelings are like sprinters. It goes fast and it ends fast.
My
But
God.
thought is like that great miler. You got to pace yourself.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Good.
Anybody have something to add to that? No. So I'm gonna keep on talking about emotions and going to emotional intoxication, because that's really the opposite. That's your mental chain. Dealing with mental chains is you have this emotional intoxication. So to be emotionally intoxicated is to be so consumed by your emotions from past hurts that you are unable to see reality, or take a leap of faith towards what you truly desire. We get stuck and it causes us to make bad or irrational decisions, as Michael just talked about and gave us an example. We're making decisions out of our emotions, and our behavior can just be ugly, or as I like to say to my kids, raggedy. Your behavior is just raggedy. So can we all give examples of what emotional intoxication looks like when it's someone's everyday persona?
I think it's one way, I should say, that emotional intoxication can be displayed is if anything that somebody says sets you off. If, it doesn't matter how it was, to that person, it doesn't matter how it was intended. You're offended by just everything that anybody says, and people around you are just kind of walking on eggshells. To me, that's one example that kind of comes to mind. If my mother has this saying where she says, if you're offended by everyone around you, who's the common denominator?
Exactly.
And so you have to kind of take an assessment of that to kind of look at if everyone around you is getting on your nerves. Maybe you need to step back and look at yourself and say, okay, what's going on with me that everyone around me is getting on my nerves? Because 9 times out of 10, it probably doesn't have anything to do, or the majority of it doesn't have anything to do with the other people.
Yeah, right.
That's-
And that goes back to that emotional intelligence that we were talking about earlier, being able to self-reflect and be self-aware of ourselves and our emotions and our behaviors. So Michael, can I direct this to you a little bit about the emotional intoxication? Because sometimes when I think of emotional intoxication, I think of as Ryan just described, someone who's just, they're always irritated, they're always upset, they just, everything sends them ablaze. They're just ready to go off on any and everybody. We just got attitudes, we don't want to listen. But then sometimes those kind of irate behaviors can be caused by other mental disorders. How can one tell the difference between someone who just needs to work on themselves versus someone who may have a mental disorder that's causing the defiance and the anger and the resistance and things of that nature?
Well, there are some things that are called personality disorders, and those are things that the greatest clinician cannot solve. He's not going to change a narcissistic personality type disorder. That's something that has been ingrained. That's how you wired. But the other ones are things that we can work on. Just someone who has a propensity to get upset. You know, we will unpack that and say, you know, anger is a secondary emotion. We'll use that one. So we get angry when we feel threatened, when we feel disrespected, not heard, we get angry. So the primary emotion is you disrespected me. Now I'm about to go off. But if a person is constantly going off, that's more of a personality disorder. And I wish I could have joined in the previous one where I want to say childhood has a lot to do with it. How you was raised, what you was nurtured in, what you saw, and that becomes, and I try not to use the word normal, but that becomes your natural. That's your natural state. Boys and girls who grew up in a chaotic home usually will go on in life, if they have not dealt with it and unpacked it, it's going to cause you a problem. Just when. And usually it starts causing a problem when you hit trauma. But the intoxication, just like any man that you've seen or lady, when they drunk, don't they usually think they're sober? Everybody got a problem but me. This sidewalk that I keep falling on, if they would just move this sidewalk, I'd be all right. If this steering wheel could just stay straight, I'll be all right. Instead of saying, it's me. It's hard for someone intoxicated to say, it's me. They usually look without when we know that it's really within.
Yes. So that is really so true. And that's one of the things I do want to talk about tonight, because, you know, we, like I said earlier, we get so comfortable in our discomfort or our dysfunction from our upbringing and the things that happen to us that sometimes we just think we're fine. There's nothing wrong with me. It's everybody else. And so how does one begin to identify, you know, that they need, that it's them? The change begins with me. It's not everyone else that needs to change. It's me that needs to change. How do we begin to develop that emotional intelligence to be self-aware and be able to self-reflect and look within ourselves for change in a better way?
Well, can I start this off and then I'll listen real quick? I just want to say, I'm sorry, Sister Hawkins. You know, they say the first step is to admit you have a problem.
That's it.
That's fine. But until that problem causes you a problem, you're not going to move.
There you go.
So if 1A is, I have a problem, then 1B is, and this problem has caused me a problem. I done lost my dog. I done lost my house, my wife, my car. I need to change. But until that pivotal moment that I have great loss, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because obviously it's working for me.
Exactly.
So they need that awakening moment where that problem now is causing them a problem.
Yes. Yes.
So if I can interject, Angelina, and Michael, thank you for sharing that. You know, sometimes things that we've taught, like you said earlier, Michael, in our childhood, it speaks to our life moving forward. I remember my father telling me one time, because he used to drink, that I would never be nothing. And my desire to live that out was so much greater than being something, that I allowed myself not to be an attorney because I thought I wasn't good enough. So sometimes we clothe that saying and we make it real. We make it a part of our very being. So we have to stop telling ourselves the lies, because we tell ourselves so many lies and we believe the lies, and then we reproduce the lies. So my thing is, we teach who we are. So in order for us to teach something different to our families, to our children, to our communities, to our jobs, and to not show up raggedy, we have to learn how to unbecome, and we have to be intentional about that. And a lot of times we're not intentional because we're so scared that we're going to break and we're going to be shattered, and that God is not going to be there to help put those pieces back together because we're comfortable in the discomfort. So learning how to be uncomfortable in the things that people have said to us, or the labels, or the things that we say to ourselves, until we become uncomfortable enough to recognize that the man in his mirror is not really who we see or who we want to see, and make the change, will continue in that emotional state of being, which hinders us from being all that we need to be. And like Cephas says, to getting and obtaining the things that we need to obtain, because some of us should be rich, but
Yeah.
because we've allowed our minds to keep us bound, we can't see any further than what my father said to me: you'll never be nothing.
That's good.
That's
There's a couple of ways. Can you hear me okay? Because I had my internet had dropped for a second. Can you hear me fine?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. There's a couple of ways that I think that someone can determine that there's something wrong on the inside of them. And one is by, if someone can say something or do something in reference to you, and it dictates your emotions and your actions, then that lets you know that there's something wrong on the inside of you if you can't be in control of your emotions and your responses. Another thing is when you allow yourself, if your self-image, what is it about yourself that allows you to accept how others treat you? That's another way to see that there's something wrong on the inside of you, because if you're saying to yourself, I'm not deserving of better treatment than this, there's something on the inside of you that says, you know, I'm not worthy, or I don't value myself, and this is the type of treatment that I deserve. So that's some of the things that some of the ways that you can identify that there's something wrong on the inside.
Well, I think what you said just brings me to another question. But before I ask that, Ella Felicia, was there something you wanted to say?
I'm good. They basically said it.
So Larry, you just said something that made me think of a something that I want to ask, which goes to identity, because I think we can all agree that the root of the issues is our emotions. But we can all agree that it starts with changing your mindset, and it's what you think, see, and do that triggers that emotion. But how does one's identity impact their mental and emotional well-being? Because you just talked about, you know, that. Can we talk about that a little bit? People's identity and the impact on their mental and emotional well-being.
Well, I believe that your identity can be subjective, okay, based on what you've been exposed to, okay. I to be very honest with you, long time ago, when I observed people, I came across a young lady who was a stripper, okay, and I asked her, what do you want to do with your life, right? What career goals do you have? And what she said was, I want to own a strip club. Because her experience was, there's a lot of money to be made here, and this is my culture, this is what I'm surrounded by, and this, I see what looks like success in this environment or in this type of business. So because I've been exposed to this and seen success in it, and people that look like me be successful in it. This is what I want to become, or this is what I want to achieve. So again, I say, you know, you can only go as far as your experiences. Your identity is subject to what you've been exposed to, because like, who was that? I think Dion said that her father had told her that she wasn't going to amount to anything. So she believed it, okay? It gave her a sense of identity to and establish who she was and how she saw herself. And it created that chain, right? To where she could not excel or go beyond that point, that experience, or what can be considered some trauma. And it came from the person, her father, her father, who was probably the most influential person in her life. So the person that you look to, because I do believe that the father is like God's representation to his children, okay? So if the father, the biological father, says to you, who you think the world of, that you can't go beyond something, you're gonna believe it, okay? You're gonna believe that, and it's gonna create a barrier or a chain, and it's gonna keep you from achieving or seeing beyond that point.
Cephas, you look like you got something to say.
I'm listening. I'm, you know, just listening to Larry. I agree definitely with what Larry said. You know, but I think I would. My mindset is a little bit different. I believe that you're born with, your identity is in you. I'll give you a for example. I had this bass guitar. Man, I try to play this bass guitar every day. Boom, boom, boom. Can I get functionally good at it? Sure. But my identity is never going to be a musician. It's just not, it's not in my, you know, it doesn't, I'm not I don't want to sit there and practice it. But then there's some children that you put an instrument in their hand. You put a ball in their hand. That's all they want to do. You put a Bible in their hand. You know, you can just see it in them from an early age. I do believe your identity goes beyond what your experiences are, that there's just an innate sense within you of your purpose, as Angelina would say, what your purpose is in life. To some degree, that is, you know, it's just in you. Can people try to stomp that out of you? Absolutely. Can experience life, you know, we're all adults here, life can throw you off, right? But to some degree, who you are, it is determined, and it's my belief, you know, at birth, because you're just, like, I just have to believe that we're all born with certain skill sets, certain mindsets, and you know, that's just who we are. So that identity is formed to some degree, no matter how much you try to be something else or, you know, shake it or what have you, your identity is truly in you. And when you start, you know, walking in that, you know, things really begin to come together. I'll put it that way.
Okay, so I gotta tell my students out there who are watching, I promise you all, I did not coach him. But again, this is what I tell them in class. So now they'll know I didn't make these things up, y'all. I did not make these things up. We did not talk before this call. I did not tell them how to answer these questions. And so now you can know I didn't just make these things up. But Cephas, I so agree with you. I have written down identity is what people can't take away from you when you identify and follow what God has given you. And so, you know, he's given us talents and giftings and abilities. And so the things that have happened to us in our past, I think, and being emotionally intoxicated can suppress our will and our abilities to go, and our abilities to go after it, or to question what's really our purpose. But you know, I teach that you got to look at what the giftings that God has given you, to be able to make that money, to make a living, to be able to serve in your purpose. So let's talk about that a little bit. How does one establish their identity when it's been, you know, crushed, or you got all these emotions? How do you begin to identify with who you are and how God has made you?
Can I say one thing though?
Sure.
And to piggyback on that, it is not always negative. We're parents. I don't know if everyone on here is a parent. I know that most of us are. But even as being a parent, we try to inject what we want, what we see and want our children to be. And, you know, even for, as we all know, having been a child, having been a parent, that kind of goes both ways. You can see where sometimes your parents push you in a positive, in their mind, it was a positive direction that they wanted you to go. But for you as the individual, it just wasn't the place for you. So I do get it. Some parents and some people can come at you from a very negative standpoint, but there's also those folks who mean the absolute best for you, but it's just
Right.
not right for you. So
I agree.
you know,
But then it causes turmoil.
No, it's not
Right?
always a
They don't mean any harm. They don't mean any harm. They mean the best for you, but then when it's not what God has designed for you to do, or does God has designed for you to go, then it can sometimes create, again, some turmoil and some trauma. Good experiences or what was intended to be good experiences can also cause some mental trauma there as well.
And Angelina, can I say that broke people, they foster broke people? So because something was broken in my father, it naturally was going to be broken in me, because that, like Larry said, that chain, that link, you know, you are who you are. You teach who you are. So for him to say that or to make that statement meant that he was broken as well. So naturally his children are going to be broken, right? Because that's all he has to offer is brokenness. So at some point in time, we have to come to the realization that everything that people say does not define who we are. It doesn't speak existence in our lives, and that God skillfully and wonderfully made us in his image and not in the image of what people think or what people believe, even important people like our parents or our brothers or our sisters or our teachers or people that we hold in high esteem. We have to recognize and be intentional to know that our emotions are so one with us that if we let even a small tear in, it has a tendency of a whirlwind effect. It will create in us something that God never intended or designed for us to be. But we begin to live those things out because sometimes we don't even know that that we can come back from some of those hurts or how to come back from some of those hurts. So it's important to know that that's not the final say. I also remember years of my father telling me that I had more Jesus in my little finger than some of these pastors had. He was trying to reaffirm me at that time because some things in his life had changed. He stopped drinking. He was living a little bit more positive, and he recognized one of the things that he had said to me was something that was damaging. So now he was trying to go back. He was trying to come back and fix it. But guess what? I had all of those years of trying to live that emotion out. And even though I heard him, and even though it freed me out up somewhat, it still took me years to realize that I didn't have to keep on walking that thing out, that thing didn't have to be one with me, that God did skillfully and wonderfully make me in his image, and that I had to learn how to be sober. Sober is a state of mind that you have to learn how to be in. I have to do that. It's a daily ingestion. You know, like Elder Felicia said, you have to believe the word. You have to walk the word out. You have to recognize that the word is a living organism to give you some direction and instruction to life so that you don't keep on self-sabotaging.
Yes.
So the construct of identity begins, as we all said, early on, your formative years. That baby that's crying and mama comes and get it, it learns real quick that if I cry, I could be nurtured. I could be loved. I could feel safe. Likewise, that baby that keep crying, no one ever comes, they start form different kind of like attachment theories. You know, they're afraid, they're scared, they're easily startled. Begin to form different things that Western now says is ADHD. They become anxious. So your identity starts early, but it doesn't have to be that. Like your alcoholic father with respect. That could have been your construct in the beginning. But likewise with me, my pop, you know, he was a foreman at the chemical plant. My brothers and others that were in the church. So naturally, I wanted to work at the chemical plant. Well, I ran across a man, Anthony Bobo, who came down to be my pastor when I was in the 11th, 12th grade. He took my grades and he said, "So what do you want to be?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna work at the plant like my papa." He said, "What you doing that for?" I said, "Because that's what I know how to do." He said, "With these grades, you need to be in school." He changed my paradigm. He changed my thought. Likewise, I heard a preacher back in Minnesota say his wife, you may know the story, say every time she cook a roast, she cut off the ends and she put it in the pan. And said one day he asked her, "Well, why are you doing that?" She said, "Cause that's what my mama do." So he said, well, he went to his mother-in-law, say, "Well, she cutting off the ends." And she said, "Why she throwing away that good meat?" He said, "Well, that's what you taught her." She said, "The only reason why I did that, because I didn't have a big enough pan to put the roast in." So we do things sometimes unaware why we doing them. We're just doing them. But if someone could come along, like that person on a bicycle with the training wheels, and they're scared even with the wheels, and you running alongside of them, and they don't let go, don't let go. And then one day you let go and they ride it, you take them training wheels off, you don't put the training wheels back on. They've evolved. So until we are able to get someone to help us with this identity, because we need people. No man is an island unto himself. So we need positive people. Dr. Verna Price in Minnesota has a book called Power of People. Adders, dividers, multipliers. Said you gotta have the adders and the multipliers and get rid of the dividers and the negative folks. So if we could shave off that, cut the fat,
Cut the fat.
and we could form a new construct that I am somebody. I'm somebody that could be.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
that gives me a thought about the individual walk, right? Because personal accountability is so important in healing. You have to be responsible for your own healing, but because no one can put in the work for you, right? But we do need support along the way. I don't think it's not known that some people have a hard time putting in the work. So, you know, why do you think people have such a hard time putting in the work? Why do they start on this road of healing and then they just turn back to their old ways? Why are they so afraid to get uncomfortable or do it? And how important is it for them to have someone that can take them on that journey and walk them through that transition so that they don't go back, or someone to come along and help change their mind from how important is that?
I mean, I think one of the things that has to be pointed out is that I think we have this really romanticized idea of healing in the first place. Healing is ugly. Deliverance is ugly. It's painful. And it takes a lot of courage to go through it. It's not a one-stop shop and then you're done. It's a process that for many of us, we go through on a day-to-day basis. And so I think while it's important to have those folks with you that know your story, that can encourage you, and not a lot of folks, maybe just one other person that you can genuinely trust and genuinely confide in, I think that's important. But at the end of the day, it's your story, it's your effort that has to make the difference in your own life on a day-to-day basis. And I think that can be tough. And even if you do lapse back into patterns that aren't necessarily healthy all the time, continuing to have that mindset as you continue to get healthier, to get back up again over and over and over again, and maintaining or getting back on track with what is making you healthy. But I think one of the hardest things I think that we do, or I think one of the more damaging things that we can do to one another is present this image or this idea that healing is just this simplistic thing and it's this momentary thing that you go through. It's not. It's a real holistic process that has to happen really daily. And I think that's part of it.
Elder Lady, any encouraging words you may have for some folks that are afraid to take the walk, or, you know, afraid to make a move?
Fear is not of God, first of all. And you have to be real with yourself first before you can be real with somebody else.
Yeah.
Admitting where you are so you can walk through that process, because like Ryan said, it is a process and it might not be what you want it to be or how you see it to be. It's a process. And we all have to walk through a process when we're walking to be whole, to become, and unveiling things that we don't like. It's not pretty. We might have to do some rolling on the floor and crying and telling God to help me. And you might be by yourself, like Ryan said. You might have to do this by yourself. Everybody don't need to know your process of being delivered and becoming who God created you to be. So yes, she's right. You might have to go through this by yourself, but know that in the end, you will come out. When you give your life to Christ, he give you a new life. If you give your life to Christ, old things are passed away. Behold, all things will become new. And it is a process. It's not magic. It's a process, like she said. So my thing is just going through the process and not trying to rush the process, because you will come out new. And not just for you. Think of your process going through that. This will affect my family. My family will be whole. I will be whole. They will see a new person. They will get the better me, as you lay your and give it to Christ. So that's my encouragement for somebody. Lay it down. Tell God, not my will, but your will. You want God's will for your life. And I always let him know, I can't do this without you. I can't do this without you. So my process is through him, because I believe the word works. And I never been through counseling, but I know he is the great counselor. So I depend on him, and walking through a process of healing. Amen. And then lean on him. And that's it. I know what we need and what we can get it from him. Sharing with somebody and telling our testimonies of how we're going through and to get encouragement. You need to trust that person with what you're going through, because everybody can't handle what you're going through. They need to be mature, first of all. You need to know that who you're sharing your life with, you need to know that they are mature to handle what you're going through. Everybody can't handle what you're going through. So you need to be very strategic about who you're sharing your life with, who you're sharing your testimony with. And, and basically we're live on Facebook. So the World Wide Web knows what we're talking about and what we're doing. So we don't have any secrets, and Christ is not trying to hide from us. It's in him we live, move, and have our being. So lay your life down and it'll be a better life. You pick up a better life. That's it.
So I kind of like, can I chime in, Angelina?
Sure. And then I have a question that's in the chat. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, real quickly, you ever watch the show Hoarders?
Yes.
I have, yes.
So it is so difficult because there are so many things that this house is so chaotic. You don't even know where to start. Mm-hmm. And when they talk to these people, it's come from trauma, and they form habits, shopping habits, addictions, and they just can't part with these things. That's how it is oftentimes with individuals who have had traumatic experiences. Where do I even start? My life is like a house, like a hoarder. My mind is so cluttered where if I take a towel out, I'm scared because put it back in. So I deal with a lot of clients who their mind is mentally cluttered and they don't even know where to begin. So we use the analogy, let's just pick up a sock. Can you just start to get up every morning at 8 a.m. and do something so small yet so needed? Just get up and make your bed. That would give you a sense of accomplishment, and quickly you begin to want to accomplish something else. But something so small like that, let's just do something small. And yeah, you sometimes you have to do it by yourself. Oftentimes you're asking a person that has dis-ease to be their own doctor, and the
Mhm.
diseased mind can't bring forth the healing mind. It takes an outside entity to come in and show them that they can, because this mind is so cluttered, I can't even think straight. So someone could just come along and just help me to just pick up a sock. And that's all we need sometimes, just a start.
Yeah. So we've been having some comments in the chat, and I've not been a good moderator. I'm so engrossed in you guys' answers, but I happen to see this question from Keziah Coleman. She says, do you think the disregard of good timing, pace, method, or order for breaking chains causes people to go back in their effort?
Mhm.
Think
Anybody
that
got
again, Angelina. Somebody was asking me a question. I'm
do
sorry.
you think the disregard of good timing, pace, method, or order for breaking change causes people to go back in their effort?
I think you have to be ready for it. I think that it's not necessarily a disregard of it. I think that you have to know within yourself when you're ready to face those things that you need to be freed from. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that's good, because I have a question for anyone on the panel, because I just like to know, what was your pivotal moment in life where you made the decision to abandon all the hurts, the disappointments, the frustrations, the naysayers, and you just said you just was desperate. And I call it a spiritual awakening. You just had that spiritual awakening that said, you know what? I done it my way. I'm done. God, I'm going to trust you. It's me and you. We're going to do this thing. I can't do it like this no more. I've got to make a change. I've got to do something. And I'm just going for it. I'm going to take that leap. What was that pivotal moment? And this is to anyone on the panel. What was that pivotal moment in your life where you decided that I'm just going to do it? I'm not going to be held back anymore.
Well, I guess I'll start. There definitely has to be an aha moment, okay? But one thing about it is we are equating our fulfillment and our healing to a moment in time in our future. We like to equate our happiness and fulfillment by in a point of time where we achieve something. I'm going to be happy once I achieve this car. I'm going to be happy or fulfilled once I accomplish this job or this position or this amount of money or this status in our culture. You know, we're sustaining or maintaining the condition that we're in because we think our fulfillment is somewhere in the future. But the Bible says that the kingdom of heaven is now. And I believe that you can be full
Now.
and you can
Now.
have healing right now when you realize it's available to you today. And one of the things I'm kind of want to piggyback on what Ms. Hawkins talked about and Mr. Montgomery talked about is that when it comes to us not being able to walk in our healing because of whether it be fear, experiencing that pain all over again. First of all, the opposite of fear is love. And the Bible says that God is love. And what we can do for one another is be an expression of love to one another. Christ died, watch this, Christ died when we wasn't deserving of him dying for us. Okay, that was the ultimate expression of love. death to one's own self. Okay, he wasn't deserving of death, nor was he deserving of death based on where we were, but because he loved us so much, he died. So let me give an example of that as well. When we're approaching other people that have some type of necessity for healing, if we talk about a moment where I got received healing, one of my issues was I had a hard time emotionally connecting with my wife. I didn't like holding her hand. Let me not say that I didn't like it. Let me just say I felt uncomfortable holding her hand. I felt uncomfortable verbally telling her I loved her consistently, verbally giving her compliments. But it was because a moment in time where I experienced pain from a woman. So I had made a vow to myself that I was never going to be hurt again by another woman. So what I did was I created this barrier to refrain from creating an emotional connection with women, because I need to be able to walk away from a woman and not feel any pain. So I could not give her the things that she desired from me because of my moment in time where I had experienced pain. But what breaks through that wall that I created is her continually dying to her needs, seeing my brokenness, and continuing to love me through it. Because watch this, things are not taught, things are caught. So when you catch a different experience, then it causes me to lower my barriers or lower these walls, because now I'm experiencing a love that says, yes, she sees me broken, she sees me hurt, and she still continues, because she was justified. She was justified in not reaching out to hold my hand. She was justified in not telling me she loved me because of how I was doing to her. She was justified. But in order for her to penetrate my heart, she had to love me anyway. She had to die to herself like Christ died for us in order to penetrate me, to give me a whole nother experience, a whole nother nature, and a whole nother paradigm. So I believe that each and every one of us, when we see brokenness in others, we may desire for them to treat us a certain way, but if we can take the beating sometimes and still love them, and we can give them a whole nother experience and a whole nother paradigm, and we can see change. And that was the moment for me. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened, over a course of time. Sometimes I think it can happen overnight. But it was definitely over time where she just gave me something different than what I experienced in my past. And she could only do that if she was continue to love me through my pain and my brokenness.
That's good.
Yes, that's good. That's real good.
Well said. Well said, brother.
I'm sorry, what you
Just
said?
to, he said, well said, brother. I
Oh.
think to piggyback on what Larry said, it's important to know that it's our responsibility to stay healed, not for someone else, but for ourselves. And that what we do creates, like Larry said, it creates situations for other people to treat us different. That's where when we draw the line in the sand and say, okay, today's the day. I'm no longer going to allow people to treat me a certain kind of way because I'm going to treat them different. I'm going to do something different. And because I'm only responsible for me. And my pivotal moment was maybe about a year, a little so 2 years ago. I think Angelina, you may have been there. Elder Lady was there. Deaconess Katana was there, and you guys began to speak into my life. And one of the things that Elder Lady and Deaconess Katana began to say to me was that I had been holding on to things for over 40 years. It was like something broke in me when they said that. It was like God was speaking to me that I had been carrying these emotional burdens for over 40 years. Here I am, 56, 57 years old, and still holding on to emotional things that's creating issues for me at 57 when I should be living my good life. Free, been saved a long time, loving God for a long time, and trying to walk out principles that we can't even begin to walk out because we don't even know who we are. We don't even know who our identity is. And it wasn't until they said that to me that something broke in me. And then I recognized that my life had to change, that I had to come face to face with who Dion was, and that everything that she was locked up into her emotions. And that I had to unbecome that. And I had to be intentional. It's something about being intentional about your own well-being and recognizing that it's not somebody else's responsibility for me to be well. But you have to come face to face with it. And like Elder Lady said, like Ryan has said, like Larry has said, Cephas, and probably maybe even you, Mike, it's a process.
Mhm.
It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But when you get the glimpse, when God allows you to glimpse, take the glimpse and hold on to it like a horn, like the horns of the altar, and run with it and allow yourself to start transforming. And I think we stop the transformation because we don't know how to do it. But if we just read the word, sometimes if we just get ourselves in a situation of praise or worship, for those of us that are saved, those ones that are not, if we just think different or get books that encourage us, or books that motivate us to do something different, to just change our mind a little bit, we can begin to break through those barriers that Larry was talking about. And we can begin to see the promised land, whatever promised land that is for you.
So let's talk about that a little bit further as we round out this conversation. What are the steps you take to go through mental healing? I mean, you have this aha moment and you decide, I've got to do something different. And maybe you've recognized it on your own. Maybe someone has pointed it out to you, but now it's time for me to go on this journey. And you make the decision to go on this journey. What happens on this journey? What are you doing on this journey to gain mental sobriety and get past your past?
Well,
What are
I can add this on there, and that my fellow panelists speak. But anytime you remove something, it has to be replaced with something. And back to my experience, see, as I was being healed through the love that my wife showed me through my brokenness, see, that brokenness, what was there was being removed, and she was replacing it with love, right? She was replacing it with something different. One of the things that I experienced not growing up, but when I met my wife and her family, see, I was out on the streets doing all kind of stuff or whatever. But when I experienced something different, when I came in contact with my wife and her family, I was able to say, no, I don't want this previous lifestyle. And I was able to walk in a different lifestyle. Because what happens, let's say someone that's addicted to drugs, okay? You can go to a rehab center for 6 months and be free from the use of doing drugs, right? But you only took care of the symptoms. You never dealt with the underlying issues. There's something psychiatric going on, some mental dis-ease, as Brother Montgomery said, that is going on that has to be addressed. So you only dealt with the symptoms, but you never dealt with the underlying issues. So you may always go back and revert back to drugs because the underlying or the disease was never addressed. But if you relieve yourself of what caused the pain and caused the hurt, it has to be replaced with something because it remains empty. Last thing I'm gonna say, going back to scripture, this is not verbatim, but there's a passage in scripture that talks about how it's about a house. A house was free from some spirits, right? And it was cast out of this house, and that spirit roamed looking for somewhere to rest in dry places. And it came back to that house, it was still empty. So it came back to the house and it brought 7 more spirits with him, okay? Because the house was empty, it was not replaced with anything. So when we get free from certain things, it has to be replaced with something. And I think with me, what was replaced for me was that experience of having pain and hurt was replaced with love through my wife. And I was able to ultimately be whole and continue to be healed because she continued to love me and replace what my experience was.
I think that's your computer, John.
It was. It's your own.
I'm
sorry?
Joanna's computer. No, I'm on my wife's computer, so I think somebody was zooming. I don't know if y'all heard that or not.
No, but did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yes, go ahead.
Cephas?
Larry kind of, and I think Miss Hawkins, she summed it up earlier too, that when you're to just keep it simple. When you go on your journey, keep your circle tight, you know, because listen, I heard somebody say you can't be an island unto yourself, but you can't be an ocean unto everybody else either. You can't let everybody in. You gotta know who's for you. When you're in that vulnerable state, you gotta know who's for you, who's with you, and you're gonna be working through some things. So it's really not a time to bring the masses in. You're gonna have to self-insulate to some degree. You know, Ryan said it. It's not gonna be pretty. Larry said it. You're not gonna get any awards. There are no trophies at the end of this thing called life. Shucks, there's death for sure. We all gonna do that, and then you know, life thereafter. You know, heaven on earth, however everybody wants to put it. But when you're going through your thing and you're working through it, you best believe you better have those that really got your back close to you, because no different than being on a diet, right? You're trying to eat right, and those who love you still might offer you a cheesecake, hot dog, hamburger, because they're just not there with you. You know, so you know, they, in some degree, they kind of don't want to see yourself. Same thing, you know, you're going through life and you're trying to get it right. Some of those other folks that was with you, they're not going to see the change in you, and it's just not that time of season for them to be around you. So you just got to keep your circle close and get ready to chomp down and go through it. So that's the only thing I had to add to it.
Well, if I could chime in, a couple things, and I'll try to keep it brief and concise. One, trauma is not something you could plan for. Trauma just hits you. As those that know me, those that's watching, I've went through something very traumatic that I never thought I would go through, but nevertheless, I went through it. And Brother Scott said that you need somebody, and he said his wife. Well, you know, I had an individual, her name is Sarah, and I mean, she said something to me early on. She said, "Mike, you so fine," and it literally, like, when I looked in that mirror, I saw an ugly man, because I was saying, how is it that I'm in this predicament? And I didn't see beauty at all. But it took her to tell me, "You're fine. You know, what's wrong with you? Nothing wrong with you." So I needed somebody to just tell me something like that. That pivotal moment when she said I was fine. And it wasn't just the words, it was how she said it. She said, "Oh, you fine." I said, "Well, look here."
I say you're an 8 at best. 8 on this day. That's if you went to the barber, suited and booted at 8, don't you?
Upside down 8.
I'll let you take that up. I'll let you take that up with
He
Sarah.
an I and not an L, right? See,
I know I'm a solid 8. Don't be coming over here trying to tell me I'm fine. I'm cool with being an 8.
I knew the clown in you was gonna come out sooner or later. Anyway,
I told you, Larry, they
I'm
be
sorry.
acting up. I told you.
But
I
what
told
I'm
you they
saying
be
is,
acting up.
so I had to rethink, and you know, she helped me along, still helping me along. And you know, someone just sent something the other day, talked about a river. Say when a river is flowing down, says the closer it gets to the ocean, it gets nervous, it gets violent, because it's about to change. And he said, and you can't go back. I couldn't go back. I had to move forward. But the fear was so gripping and moving forward. So finally, when I finally just, you know, came into the ocean, I saw how vast all the possibilities. All of a sudden, I'm no longer anxious. I'm sleeping better. My thought is better. I've opened up my mind to new ideas that I didn't even know it was there. So I'm saying that pivotal moment wasn't like I just woke up one day. It was the beginning of just someone reminded me, I'm sorry, Cephas, you know, that I was fine, because I had forgotten that, you know, at least I look decent. And I mean, it was so bad to where I love bow ties. I stopped wearing bow ties. I stopped dressing up. I didn't care, you know, if my hair was done or not. Look, they're gonna take me as I am. I wore jeans to work that I didn't iron, but all it took was that, and all of a sudden, hey, let me iron these jeans. let me get this shirt pressed. What them bow ties I once had, and it was a reset, and I just needed that. So that was my moment.
So what do you all say to someone who just doesn't, they don't even have a tight, small core circle. They don't have no one to encourage them. They don't have anyone to help them on the journey. What do you say to them as to what they can still do in order to?
I'm sorry. I think part of the issue is, yes, you do need people. You definitely do. I think one of the things that is vitally important, if you just have no one, and not only if you just don't have anyone with you, but counseling is a wonderful tool for some people. Some people find it incredibly beneficial to talk to a rather neutral party about what's going on in their lives. But I think, and providing that encouragement, but sometimes we just have to dig into our relationship with God. I think, as Elder Lady said a little while ago, you can have people with you, but sometimes in the trenches, when you're really in the trenches of healing, that relationship that you have with God can become so much sweeter, because there are things that you're going to share with God once you realize He can take it. Once you realize He can take your ugliness, He can take your mistakes, He can take whatever it is that you're going to give to Him and release to Him and actually do something about it. We can talk to people all we want to, but when you talk to Him, He can actually do something about it. You know what I mean? That sounding board is phenomenal. But when you have that intimate connection with God in that moment of brokenness, there is coming out of that, there is a trust that you have in Him, unlike anything that you could even pay for in another human being. And so sometimes I believe that's what God is trying to get us to do in the first place, is really allow not just other people, but really allow Him to be that support system that we need, that we so readily run to everyone else to get what we're looking for, when in actuality it's in Him. Also, it's in us because He's in us. And so, when you continue to pray, God, give me peace, I've already given you peace. You have to access that peace. God, give me joy. I've already given you joy. You have to find ways to access that joy. What is it about you, about your lifestyle, about that hurt that took that joy away? Where do you find joy? It goes kind of also with that identity of who you are. For me, one of the things that I was very shocked about was exercise does that for me. There's that, you can do simple things. I think sometimes we make it too complicated in terms of ways that we can heal. It can be eating right, exercise, journaling, meditation. Meditation gets a bad rap, that it can be looked at as new age or what have you. There's awesome ways that you can meditate, and it actually calms you. It relieves anxiety. It relieves stress. It kind of brings you inward. Just all you're doing is breathing. So there's a lot of simple ways, I think, that if you put kind of what I call a cocktail together of what actually works for you, that's going to take you farther. I'm not trying to say that we need to be an island. I'm not saying that. But some of those things are going to take you so much further than any, I'm just going to say it, any person can actually do in that moment for you. It's just, that's just kind of my thought.
That's good.
So before we kind of start to wrap up here, I just got one last question stemming from what you just said, Ryan, and building a connection and a relationship with God. How does one go about building that connection relationship with God? Because many of us are believers, but we're not really believing that God is going to heal us. We're not believing, we're living in fear, we're in worry, and we're not really leaning and trusting on Him. So how do we begin to, and this is to anyone, how do we begin to build that relationship with God and identify with Him in order to start that healing process?
First of all, this is my little thing. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. He shall direct your path. So we have to put our trust in Him, not in us, because our trust will let us down. Our trust will let other family members, friends, it will let us down. But when we put our trust in him, he will direct our path. And that's what we need to do. We need to trust in him, not in our abilities, not in our education, not in our businesses. We need to put our trust in him. And I'm sure this virus, this pandemic has brought everybody to call on the name of Jesus. If you haven't, baby, you can believe you will call on the name of Jesus at this time, because he has the whole world in his hand. He got all of our attention right now. I mean, every one of he has all of our attention. So you better put your trust in him, because jobs may fail and they are failing. Families may leave you and they are leaving. People are out being hungry right now. So you better put your trust in him. You better call on the name of Jesus. That's where you better put your trust at.
Preach, girl, preach.
I'm sorry. That's all I got to say.
Well, if we're gonna keep it real, and I like
Uh-huh.
to keep it real. When I was going through my trauma, I was mad at God. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I pay my tithes. Every time the church doors open, I'm there. I cut the grass. I go visit people. I treat people nice. Why in the world did you let this happen to me? Now, I used to be a pastor. Woo. Well, I can get up there and preach, put your trust in God. Saints, let me tell you, when the times are hard, that's when you put your trust. But when trauma hits you, when it really, really hits you, oh, it shakes you to your core. Now, just like footprints in the sand, I thought he left me, but I didn't know deep down he was carrying me. And a friend of mine said, Mike, sometimes he'll tear you down because he needs to build you up better over here. And once I really accepted that, I first asked for his forgiveness, and then I had to do something just as hard. I had to forgive myself for even having those thoughts. But I'm being real. I didn't want to hear nobody saying you need to pray more, man, whatever. I've been praying more than a Muslim. Still falling apart. Well, maybe you ain't paying your tithes right. You need to check my checking account. Money going out of my account. You know, maybe you need to treat people better. Well, my God, I just let Susie borrow my car. You know, what more you want? But it was real, y'all. It was real. But it comes if it's in you, and that's why he said take root in Jacob. Because if it's in you, it's gonna be there. And when you need him, he'll be there in a time of trouble. He said he's the best one for you, I know. He'll help you when waters bubble, and he said he'll fix it, so you could go. And remember, with the lady that was caught in adultery, she was caught, but he made a way for her to escape. It wasn't there, but he made it. And sometimes we need to make our way instead of always looking for it. Just tell God to make a way for me. That's my
Michael, you was about to make Felicia speak in tongues back there. We can't have her on Facebook Live as a family. Y'all gonna have to catch her. Boy, she about to get in the spirit in them words.
You're gonna ban her.
Well said, Mike. Well said.
Thank you.
Yes, well said. So I'm going to, because we've gone over our time, but I want to thank you all, thank our viewers for sticking in here with us. Look for more to come, but I just want to round this off with a little bit of summary of breaking these mental chains. You know, no matter how you got the chains, and whether it was through a good experience or supposed to have been a good experience or a bad experience, you have to be able to identify where you are. And when you have that aha moment, you got to make that decision to pursue. You get to pursue that healing and pursue that change in order to make your life better and be able to go to level and not being stuck. And so some of the things, I think that you all gave some really good advice on how you can gain that mental sobriety and maintain it. You know, I've heard building a relationship with God, you got to seek God and trust in him. I've heard that you need a reprieve. You know what, you got to release it, no matter whether it's talking to someone, and if you don't have someone, then you can get a counselor or a therapist. You know, you make it, write in a journal, write songs, sing, dance, exercise, you know, play sports, whatever you got to do to release that energy. You got to be able to identify the trigger or the emotion that is keeping you stuck, and the trauma that's associated with it, and be able to address it. But most of all, what I've heard at the end from Michael is forgiveness.
Yeah.
You can't have healing without forgiveness, people. If you listen to me, hear me when I say you can't have healing without forgiveness. We gotta be able to get past whatever it was and forgive that person and forgive God, because we gotta know God has only our best at heart. He has good plans for us. And so whatever we may be going through, it's all for our good. It's all to prepare us for that next level that he wants to take us to. So forgiveness is unbothered. Unbothered is forgiveness, and that is the theme of Becoming a Being. We're on this unbothered movement. We're on the movement for people to let go, forgive, so that they can move and walk in their purpose. So I want you all to stay tuned. If you are following me, if you're not following us, go ahead and click the follow link. Follow us at Becoming a Being. Look for more engaging conversations such as this as we continue. This was our big launch, and I just want to thank my panelists. You all were great. Your insights were great, and I really appreciate it. Yes, hand claps to you. But we're going to have more conversations. I mean, there's so much more to dig into. This was just scratching the surface. So stay tuned, because we'll have more conversations like this, bringing healing to the people. And if you are, I'm going to share my screen here. If you don't have anyone that you can talk to, you know, there are services. There's some national resources that you can reach out to. There's also, can you all see that on the screen?
Yes.
Again, Michael Montgomery, he has the Empower Counseling Services. So if you're in the Ohio area, you can reach out to him. His email is there on the screen. And Becoming a Being, you can email us at becomingabeing@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, and we also have a YouTube page where I post different videos. So follow us, go subscribe to us on YouTube as well. So I thank you so much. Again, I thank my panelists. You are great. This has been great, and I hope you all have enjoyed this and tune in again here soon. Thank you so much.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Later. Bye, everybody. It's been great.
Yeah.
One moment, y'all.
Have a good night.